We rolled into Blood's territory, thinking we were about to wipe them off the map. But 5 minutes in, I realized something was off, way off. The block was too quiet. No dogs barking, no traffic, just that low hum of the city and the feeling that somebody was already watching us. You're watching Tales from the Block. Hit that like button, subscribe. I got more real stories from the streets coming for you. I grew up repping Crips on the east side of South Central. Blue flags, blue lights, blue everything. Where I'm from, you ain't got to fill out no application to join the life. The life finds you. My pops left before I could even remember his face, and my mom's worked 2 jobs trying to keep the lights on. The block raised me, and the block don't raise no saints. By 16, I was already running with the older homies, boosting cars, bagging dope, hitting corners with a .38 tucked under the seat. That blue flag wasn't just a color. It was the only family I had left. Every scar, every bullet hole in the walls of our neighborhood, it all spelled one thing: survival. That week, the blood's been getting reckless. Spraying up our corners, jumping our youngins after school, tagging our walls in red just to disrespect. Word was they wanted to take Normandy and 85th, our main spot for moving work. Couldn't let that slide. So when Reese, our shot caller, said we were going to clean house, nobody hesitated. Reese was older, mid-30s, shaved head, tattoos creeping up his neck like vines. You could tell he'd seen too much. The kind of dude who never raised his voice, but when he spoke, people shut up. He looked at me across the table that night and said, "Mar, I'm trusting you with this one. We can't have no slip-ups. In and out quick. Make him remember who runs this side." I nodded, even though something inside me twisted. This wasn't the kind of job where people came back smiling. But you don't say no to Reese. Not if you value breathing. We loaded up 3 whips that night, 2 black Chargers and a beat-up van with no plates. Inside the van, it smelled like gun oil and adrenaline. Tay, my right hand, sat across from me loading mags. He was 22, skinny but wild, the kind of dude who laughed in the middle of a shootout. "Yo, you think them Reds even gone show tonight?" he asked, smirking, sliding a mag into his Glock. "They'll show," I said. "They always do when it's time to die." He grinned. "You cold as hell, March." I like that. Outside, the city breathed slow and heavy. The streets glowed orange under busted streetlights, and smoke curled from a dumpster fire 2 blocks down. Somewhere, a siren wailed, far but familiar. Our driver, Lil Tone, tapped the wheel, nodding to the bass line in his head. "Reese said they move in wait out of that red house on 89th, right?" "Yeah," I said. "We hit hard and fast. No weaknesses. No mercy." We moved like shadows through the night. Tires rolled over cracked pavement, the van humming low. Every streetlight felt like an interrogation lamp. Every turn a gamble. When we hit 89th, I noticed something strange. The lights in the Blood's trap house were off. Normally, that place stayed lit all night. Music, voices, sometimes women laughing. But now, dark, silent. My gut clenched. "Yo, y guisperth. Kill the lights." Tone flicked the headlights off. The van coasted into a shadow between 2 burned-out houses. We sat there listening. You could almost taste the silence. Sweat ran down my temple, and the metal of my rifle felt slick in my hands. "Maybe they dipped," Tay muttered. "Nah," I said. "They hear. They watching us." I stepped out of the van, crouched low. The asphalt was still warm from the day's heat. A streetlight flickered above, throwing my shadow long across the road. Reese's voice echoed in my head. "Make him remember who runs this side." I motioned the crew forward. We split, 3 to the left, 3 to the right. The house looked like every other spot on the block. Boarded windows, graffiti tags, smell of piss, and old smoke. But the front door, it was cracked open. "Yo, Tay on me," I whispered. We crept up the steps. The wood creaked under our weight. My heart was pounding so loud I swore it could give us away. Tay peeked through the gap. "Ain't nobody in there, bro." "Then why's the TV on?" I said. He froze. Inside, through the doorway, we saw a faint blue glow, Static from a TV, left running. A trap. I didn't even have time to shout before the first shot cracked. Glass exploded next to my head. I hit the porch hard, rolling behind a busted couch. Tay dropped flat, returning fire into the darkness. "Shit, they on the roof," he yelled. Bullets rained down like hail. Sparks jumped off the metal railing. Someone screamed, one of ours. I crawled behind the couch, checked my mag half empty already. "Tone, get the van out." I screamed, but no response. Then, boom, a bright flash lit the street. The van erupted in flames. I felt the heat hit my face even from 30 feet away. The shockwave knocked Tay on his side. "Fuck, they hit the gas tank," he coughed. I looked around, red bandanas in the shadows, moving in packs. They'd been waiting, every angle covered. We weren't the hunters. We were bait. "Fall back," I shouted. Back through the alley. We bolted through a side fence, splinters tearing our clothes. Bullets chased us, clapping off bricks. I felt one graze my shoulder. Hot pain, but I kept moving. We cut through a narrow alley lined with trash cans and broken glass. Somewhere behind us, someone screamed my name, then silence. Just me and Tay now. He stumbled beside me, gasping. "They set us up, bro. They fucking knew." "I know," I said, chest heaving. "Keep moving." We burst out onto Hoover Street, where neon lights buzzed over a liquor store. The whole block looked dead, like the city itself was holding its breath. We ducked behind a parked car, catching our breath. "Who the hell tipped him off?" Tay asked, voice shaking. "Don't know," I said, "but somebody did." He looked at me, eyes wide, fear creeping in. "You think Reese?" "Don't say it." I cut him off. Reese don't play both sides. But even as I said it, the thought crawled through my head like a spider. We sat there for a moment, the air thick with smoke and sirens in the distance. My shoulder throbbed. I could still hear the faint pops of gunfire echoing a few blocks away. We had to regroup, but where? Every corner around here screamed blood territory. I pulled out my phone, no signal. Then I noticed something else. The power grid was down. Whole neighborhood blacked out. Tay cursed under his breath. "They killing the lights, bro. They trying to trap us in." "Yeah," I said quietly. "They want us blind." We moved again, hugging the walls, sliding between shadows. Every flicker of light made me flinch. Every alley sounded like footsteps. We reached an abandoned auto shop. Chain link fence torn open, graffiti crawling up the walls. Inside, the air reeked of oil and dust. Perfect place to catch her breath. Tay collapsed against a wall. "I'm down to one mag," he said. "Two left," I muttered. "We gotta find a ride out of here." Then a noise. Soft, metallic, like someone chambering around. We froze. Tay raised his Glock toward the dark corner. "Who's there?" No answer. I could feel eyes on us. My finger hovered over the trigger. Then a voice. Low, calm, familiar. "Should have stayed on your block, blue boy." Out of the shadows stepped a blood in a red hoodie, dreadlocks tied back, teardrop tattoo under his eye. He had an AK pointed right at us. Behind him, two more shadows moved, red rags tied tight. Tay snapped off a shot, missed. The blood fired back, hit Tay in the leg. He went down screaming. I dove behind an old tire stack, bullets chewing through rubber. "Hey!" I yelled. He groaned, clutching his leg, blood pooling fast. "Drop the gun, Crip!" the blood yelled. "Ain't nowhere left to run." I looked at Tay. His face was pale, breath ragged. Then I looked at the door, wide open, streetlight slicing through the darkness. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed a wrench off the floor, threw it toward the corner. The blood flinched. I popped up and fired 3 quick rounds. One of them screamed and went down. The other 2 ducked. I grabbed Tay by his arm, dragging him toward the back door. We stumbled into the alley again, broken glass crunching underfoot. My shoulder burned, his leg bled, but we kept moving. Somewhere behind us, the Bloods regrouped, shouting, chasing. The hunt was on. We ran until our lungs burned, until my vision blurred. Finally, we collapsed behind a dumpster, both gasping for air. Tay's voice was faint. They knew every move we made, bro. Somebody told him. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because deep down, I already knew he was right. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a setup, and whoever sold us out, they were one of our own. The distant hum of a helicopter cut through the night. Its spotlight swept the streets, flashing across broken windows, shattered glass, and burning cars. We were somewhere between enemy lines, hunted, bleeding, outnumbered. Tay leaned his head back, eyes half shut. What now, Mar? I stared at the black sky, jaw tight. Now we find out who did this. Because if there's one thing I learned on these streets, it ain't the bullets that kill you first. It's betrayal. And that night, betrayal was just getting started. The city didn't sleep that night. Even with the power out, you could feel it breathing, slow and mean, like an animal waiting in the dark. Every alley hummed with danger. Every rooftop felt alive. And somewhere out there, the Bloods were still moving, searching. We hid behind a dumpster behind a liquor store on Hoover, catching our breath. Tay's leg was torn up bad. Not clean, not deep, but ugly. I ripped a piece of my shirt, tied it around the wound, and told him to stay quiet. The street beyond us looked like a ghost town. Only thing moving was smoke from a car, still burning 2 blocks away. Mar, Tay whispered, teeth gritted. You think Reese knew? I stared at him, jaw tight. The name hit like a knife. I don't know, I said, but somebody did. They knew the route, the time, even the backup car. He nodded, breathing shallow. Somebody talking. Ain't no way they guessed all that. I tried to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. Reese was the one who picked the team. He was the one who gave me the map. And now half my crew is gone, maybe worse. I peeked around the corner. A red glow flickered down the street. Not fire this time. Headlights, creeping slow. Hey, we gotta move. He groaned but nodded. I helped him up, slinging his arm over my shoulder. The night smelled like iron and gasoline. We cut through backyards, hop fences stayed low. Every sound felt louder than it should have. Wind brushing plastic bags, a gate squeaking somewhere far away, the soft crackle of fire. I knew this neighborhood, not by name, but by feel. Every block had a different heartbeat. This one, fear, and I could tell it wasn't just ours. At the end of the alley stood a broken sign, Lee's Auto Repair. Rusted letters, boarded windows. I remembered the place, old shop we used to tag as kids. It had been empty for years. We ducked inside, flashlight beam bouncing off oil-stained walls. Sit, I told Tay, lowering him behind an overturned workbench. He leaned back, trying to breathe through the pain. You ever think, he said, voice barely above a whisper, that maybe this life just running out a road? I didn't answer. Instead, I checked the door, wedged a wrench under the handle to keep it shut. He kept talking, maybe to stay awake. I mean, we keep saying we do it for the block, right? But the block don't care, March. It just eats whoever's standing too close. I turned toward him. You done? He smirked weakly. Yeah, just talking. The flashlight flickered, then died. Dark again. Outside, I heard an engine rumble, slow, circling, tires crunching gravel. I crouched low, peeking through a crack in the plywood. A van rolled past, red cloth hanging from the mirror. They were still looking, still hunting. When the sound faded, I sat beside Tay. The air was heavy with dust and silence. Who you think sold us out? He asked. I thought about every face in that van. Done, Rico, Dre. No, can't use that name. Sorry, rephrase. Done, Rico, Dion. All dead or missing. All except me and Tay. It wasn't Reese, I said finally. He wouldn't, but I stopped, because even saying it out loud felt like lying. Tay leaned his head back, breathing slow. If it ain't him, it's somebody close. Somebody who know your every move. Yeah, I muttered, and I'm gonna find out who. We stayed there an hour, maybe 2. Hard to tell. Time don't move right when you're hiding. My body ached from the run, my shoulder throbbed, but my mind wouldn't stop. Every sound outside made me jump. I kept thinking about the van blowing up, about the screams, about the way the Bloods moved, like they were following a script. Finally, I couldn't sit still anymore. "We can't stay here," I said. "They'll sweep this block soon." Tay tried to stand but winced. "I can't run like this, bro." "You don't gotta. There's a safe spot on 92nd, the church basement. Sister and still keeps it unlocked. I'll get you there." He looked at me. "And you?" "I'm going back." He frowned. "Back? Mar, you lost your damn mind. You ain't gone find nothing but red out there." I grabbed his shoulder. "If I don't go, we never find who did this. We never stop looking over our shoulder." He sighed, eyes heavy. "You always gotta play hero, huh?" "Somebody's gotta clean up the mess," I said. We waited until the night shifted, when the sirens moved farther, when the streets felt thin and hollow. Then we went. The walk to the church was slow. Tay limped, leaning on me, and every block felt longer than the last. The sky was bruised purple, the kind of color that only comes before dawn, like the city was holding its breath. When we finally saw the steeple, I almost smiled. The front door was locked, but the side basement entrance gave with a push. The air inside was cold and still. Old wood, old faith. I helped Tay down to the steps. "Stay here," I said. "If I ain't back by sunrise, you go to Reese's spot and tell him what happened." He looked up, eyes wet but sharp. "You come back, March. You hear me? Ain't no glory dying for ghosts." I nodded. "Yeah, but I ain't dying yet." When I stepped outside again, the city was changing color. The fire down the block had burned out, leaving only smoke and silence. I moved fast, keeping to the shadows, cutting through alleys, back streets, anywhere the red lights didn't reach. As I walked, I thought about Reese, about how he'd always told us loyalty was the only thing that mattered. You break bread, you bleed together. That's the code. But what if the code got twisted? What if somebody at the top had already decided who was expendable? By the time I reached our block, the sun was barely scraping the horizon. The air felt heavy, like the city was sweating out secrets. Reese's place sat behind an old tire shop, plain, quiet, nothing flashy. The kind of spot you wouldn't look twice at. I used the back door, same as always. Inside, it smelled like coffee and gunpowder. He was sitting at the table, like he'd been waiting. "Mar," he said, voice low, calm. "You look like hell." I didn't answer, just stared. He gestured to a chair. "Sit down." I didn't. "You knew." He raised an eyebrow. "Knew what?" "Don't play with me, Reese. You sent us there." They were ready. They had every angle covered. "Who told him?" He leaned back, folding his arms. "You accusing me of something?" "I'm a skin," I said. "Why half my crew's gone?" For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then he sighed. "You ever think maybe somebody else messed up? Maybe it wasn't me?" "Then who?" I snapped. He looked me dead in the eye. "Check your boy Tay." I froze. "What you say?" Reese's tone didn't change. He'd been acting different. Sloppy. Missing meetings. Caught him talking to folks I don't trust. "You think Tay?" I started, but he cut me off. "I don't think, March. I know what I seen." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Nah, he wouldn't. He was out there bleeding next to me." Reese shrugged. "Maybe that was the plan. Maybe he needed your trust." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Could Tay really have? No, not him. He'd saved my life more times than I could count. But the seed was planted, and Reese knew it. I left without another word. Outside, the sun was rising, soft light bleeding through the haze. The city looked tired, bruised, alive. I walked aimlessly, thinking, replaying everything. Tay's word in the shop. They knew every move we made. Reese's warning. "Check your boy Tay." Maybe they were both lying. Maybe neither was. When I reached the church again, it was quiet. The side door still cracked open. I stepped inside, slow, cautious. The basement was dim, light spilling through the small window near the ceiling. Tay was gone. My stomach dropped. On the floor, near where he'd been sitting, lay a bandage, soaked through, still damp. And next to it, a folded piece of paper. I opened it. One line, written in shaky handwriting. "Don't come looking for me." That's when I knew everything had just changed. If Tay had walked, with that leg, with that wound, he either had help, or he'd never been hurt as bad as he looked. I sat there for a long time, just listening to the echo of my own breathing. Somewhere above, the morning started waking up, cars, dogs, voices. But down there, it was just me and the quiet. I wanted to believe he ran cause he was scared, that maybe he just couldn't take it anymore. But the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. He knew I'd go back to Reese. He knew Reese would twist it. He knew I'd start doubting. And that's when it hit me. Maybe that was the plan all along. I left the church with the sun high and my thoughts darker than ever. The Bloods weren't just hunting us anymore. We were hunting each other. Every blue flag in the city looked suspicious now. Every alley, every glance, every silence felt like it was hiding something. I needed answers. But answers on these streets always came with a price. I started making calls, old contacts from before things got this bad. People who owed me favors who still had ears in the right places. Most didn't answer. One did. Deja, old friend from back when we were kids stealing candy instead of cars. She ran with nobody now, kept her head down, but she heard things. When I told her what happened, she went quiet. "Mar," she said, "you ain't gone like what I'm about to tell you." "Say it." "The Bloods ain't the ones that set you up. It was an inside trade. Word is somebody on your team gave up the drop to keep their family safe. Who? I don't know for sure, but they said it was someone you trusted more than yourself." Her words hung there, heavy, more than myself. That could only be Tay, but part of me still refused to believe it. "Thanks, Deja," I said quietly. "Be careful," she whispered. "This city's eaten its own." When the call ended, I just stood there, under a flickering streetlight, blue rag still in my pocket, heart beating like a drum. Somewhere in the distance, the Bloods' music started, bass heavy, echoing through the blocks. They were celebrating. Maybe not just a win, maybe a deal. I took a deep breath, looked toward the west side, and started walking. Because if Tay was still out there, I was going to find him. And this time, there wouldn't be anywhere left to hide. The city had turned into a maze of shadows. By the time the first light of dawn started bleeding into the sky, I'd lost track of which streets I'd already crossed. Everything looked the same: boarded up liquor stores, flickering streetlights, empty alleys echoing with the distant hum of police sirens. My hoodie was soaked through, not from rain, but from the sweat of running, hiding, waiting, and thinking too much. I kept hearing the sound of footsteps that weren't there. Every echo behind me sounded like a gun being drawn. Every car that slowed down made my hand twitch toward my waistband. I knew paranoia was eating me alive, but after what happened on South Vernon, I didn't know who was still alive or who was hunting who anymore. That cleanup job, it was supposed to be simple. Slide in, handle business, slide out. But when the lights cut off and the smoke started filling the street, it wasn't just the Bloods that went down. My own people had dropped too. I saw blue rags fall beside red ones, and when the smoke cleared, I realized there was someone playing both sides. I just didn't know who. The first real clue came an hour later. I ducked into a corner store off Crenshaw. Half the neon letters burned out, the glass door cracked. The clerk recognized me, but didn't say a word, just slid a paper cup of coffee across the counter and went back to pretending he didn't exist. That's the kind of silence you get in places where people know the rules. Don't look, don't talk, don't remember. I stood there by the freezer section, sipping coffee that tasted like burned oil, staring at my reflection in the glass door. The tired eyes, the scar running across my jaw, the faint blue of the bandana tucked into my pocket. I looked like a ghost that hadn't realized it was already dead. Then I saw it, a flash of red in the reflection. A car had pulled up outside. Old Impala, black rims, red glow from the dash. Bloods. I dropped the cup and moved fast, through the back door, out into the alley. My sneakers splashed through puddles, and I didn't even look back. I could hear doors slam, voices shouting, the scrape of metal. But the city was with me that morning. I slipped through a hole in the fence behind the laundromat, crawled under a half-fallen gate, and found myself staring at the edge of the canal. The smell hit first: rust, oil, and something stale that reminded me of burnt rubber and regret. I crouched there, listening to the city hum above me, trying to slow my heartbeat. Then my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before answering. The voice on the other end was calm. Familia. Why you running, kid? My stomach went cold. It was someone from my side. Someone who knew the plan. Who is this? I whispered. The voice chuckled. Low and lazy, like smoke curling in the dark. Don't worry about that. Just know you're not the only one breathing after last night. And that makes you a problem. Click. The call ended. For a long time, I just sat there in the dirt, staring at my phone, feeling the city move around me. I wasn't sure if that was a threat or a warning, but either way, it meant one thing. Whoever had flipped the job, they were still cleaning up loose ends. And I was one of them. I needed to find someone who knew more than me. Trey was my first thought. He'd been my lookout last night before everything went wrong. We'd grown up together, stealing bikes, hustling sneakers, getting jumped together more times than I could count. If there was one person I could trust, it was him, or at least I thought so. His spot was a few blocks off Manchester, an old two-story building with bars on the windows and a mural of Nipsey on the wall outside. When I got there, the door was open just a crack. That wasn't like him. Trey didn't leave doors open, not even for sunlight. I pushed it open slow. Inside smelled like gun oil and sweat. The TV was still playing static, the ashtray overflowing. There were signs of movement. A chair knocked over, a half-eaten sandwich on the counter, the kind of mess that looks like someone left in a hurry. Then I saw the note taped to the fridge. Don't trust them. They know. That was it. 2 lines. No name. No signature. The handwriting was his, though quick, slanted, the same way he used to tag walls when we were kids. I didn't have time to think before the floorboards creaked behind me. Didn't think you'd actually come back here, a voice said. I turned slow. Trey stepped out from a hallway, hoodie up, pistol drawn, not pointing it yet, but close enough. His eyes looked tired, hollow, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Put that down, man, I said quietly. We got bigger problems. He didn't move. Yeah, he said. We do. You, for starters. I froze. He took a step closer. They told me you flipped. Said you sold us out to the Bloods before the hit. That's a lie. I snapped. I was there same as you. I barely made it out. He shook his head. I don't know what to believe anymore, bro. All I know is half our crew's gone, and the only people walking out of that mess were you and the ones wearing red. For a second, I didn't know what to say. The silence between us felt heavier than a gun barrel. Finally, I said, then why'd you leave me that note? He blinked, just for a moment, and I saw the confusion in his eyes. Then it hit me. He didn't write it. Before I could move, glass shattered upstairs. Both of us ducked on instinct. A shadow moved across the window. Someone was in the building. Without a word, Trey nodded toward the back door, and we slipped out. For that brief moment, we were brothers again, 2 ghosts running from the same nightmare. The sky had turned gray by then, the sun still hiding behind layers of smoke and dust. The air felt heavy, like the city itself was holding its breath. We ran through backyards and alleys, past barking dogs and trash cans, until we reached the train yard behind the freeway. Never we stopped to breathe. That's when Trey finally said it. They knew where you were. Knew you'd come to me. That means someone's feeding them info. He was right. Someone on the inside was leaking. And the more I thought about it, the more one name started echoing in my head. Marv. Marv was the one who'd given us the cleanup order. He'd been calling shots since before I even got jumped into the set. The kind of man who didn't say much, but when he did, people listened. If this whole thing was a setup, it had to trace back to him. Trey, and I decided to split. I tracked down Marv's runner, a dude named Jinx who usually handled his street talk. Trey said he'd circle back and hit up anyone who might still be breathing from our crew. We agreed to meet under the bridge at 9 p.m., same spot we used to hang out as kids. That gave me maybe 12 hours to figure out who was playing Puppet Master. Jinx wasn't hard to find. He was always posted near the strip mall on Florence, a skinny guy with tattoos that crawled up his neck and a laugh that sounded like a cough. When I found him, he was sitting on a crate, rolling dice with a couple of kids who didn't look old enough to shave. Yo, Jinx, I called. He looked up, squinting. Damn, you still alive? Barely. He smirked. Word is you ghosted your own crew last night. Word is wrong, I said. I need to talk to Marv. He laughed, low and mean. Marv ain't talking visitors, bro. Especially ones with blue flags who got the whole block of skin questions. Then tell him it's about what went down on Vernon. He'll want to hear it. That wiped the smile off his face. For a second, the street noise faded, the cars, the sirens, the wind, all of it. He leaned closer, voice dropping. You don't know when to quit, do you? Never did. He studied me for a moment, then jerked his head toward the alley. Give me an hour. If you're still breathing by then, maybe he'll talk. I waited. 1 hour turned into 2. The sun climbed higher, then started dropping again, the light bending orange across the skyline. I kept my back to the wall, eyes on the street. Every car that passed, every group that lingered too long, it all felt like a test. Finally, Jinx came back alone. Marv will see you, he said. But he said come quiet. No straps, no friends. I didn't like it, but I didn't have a choice. Marv's place was an old warehouse near the tracks, the kind of spot that looked abandoned from the outside. Inside, though, it was alive, flickering lights, the smell of cigars, the hum of low conversation. A few faces I recognized from the set stood around, watching me walk in like I was a stray dog. Marv sat in the corner, heavy jacket, gold chain, eyes that looked like they hadn't blinked in a week. He didn't speak at first, just stared. Then he said, "You messed up my operation, kid." "I didn't mess it up," I said quietly. "Someone played both sides." He tilted his head. "You got proof." "Not yet, but I got bodies, ours and theirs, and someone making calls under your name." That got his attention. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You think I burned my own set?" "I think someone wants us to think that." For a moment, he just looked at me. Then he said, "You know Trey?" My heart skipped. "Yeah," I said carefully. "Why?" Marv leaned back, sighing through his nose. "He's gone." The words hit like a slap. "What do you mean, gone?" "They found him near the bridge. Couple hours ago." I couldn't breathe. He was supposed to be there waiting for me. He never got the chance. Marv stood up, walked over, put a hand on my shoulder. "If you got something to tell me, now's the time. Before the city decides for you." I looked up at him, trying to read his eyes, but all I saw was smoke. That's when it clicked. Trey's note, the phone call, the setup, the reason he'd been waiting for me to come back. It wasn't about cleaning up the Bloods. It was about cleaning up us. "Marv," I said slowly, "you knew that alley was going to be a graveyard." He didn't deny it, didn't even flinch. "I did what had to be done," he said finally. The set was getting sloppy. Too many mouths, too many dreams. You either tighten up or get swallowed. I stepped back, heart pounding. "You played us." He smiled. "Welcome to the game." I didn't remember leaving. 1 second I was standing there, staring at him. The next I was outside, breathing hard, the cold air cutting into my lungs. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Somewhere closer, I heard a car engine start. I ran. Didn't think. Didn't look back. Just ran. Because now I knew the truth. The hunt wasn't between Crips and Bloods anymore. It was between me and the man who taught me the rules. And the city wasn't big enough for both of us. The streets never looked the same after I found out about Marv. Every block that used to feel like home now felt like a trap waiting to close. Every face I passed, homies, dealers, kids on bikes, looked like they already knew something I didn't. The hood's eyes were everywhere, and every one of them whispered the same thing. "You're marked." By sunset, I'd stopped trying to hide. I walked through the open, hood down, chin up, hands in my pockets, acting like I still belonged. In this game, fear was the scent that drew everything hungry toward you. If they thought I was scared, I was done. I kept thinking about Trey, the way he'd looked in that last second before the glass broke upstairs. The way he nodded, no words, just understanding. He didn't deserve that ending. Not for staying loyal to me when loyalty didn't mean much anymore. That's when the rage started to grow, quiet, steady, cold. If Marv wanted to finish what he started, he'd have to look me in the eyes this time. I spent that night gathering, what was left of my world. An old denim jacket with the stitching ripped from fights I didn't even remember, a flip phone with half the keys broken, a picture of me, Trey, and two other boys from the block back when we thought colors made us invincible. That photo was cracked right down the middle, Trey's face split by the line. I kept it in my inside pocket like a reminder of the debt that had to be paid. The sky was bruised purple when I reached the overpass. Freight trains rumbled somewhere in the distance. I'd always liked that sound. Steady, unstoppable, the sound of something that didn't care about anyone's problems. Under the bridge, graffiti covered the concrete like history written by ghosts. Names of people gone, tags of sets that didn't exist anymore, faded promises. The kind of place where you could disappear if you wanted to. That's where I saw him, Ghost. He wasn't part of any set anymore. He used to run with us before he lost a leg in a chase with the cops. Now, he just drifted, selling info, watching from the sidelines, trading secrets for cigarettes. If anybody knew where Marv was holed up, it'd be him. He saw me first. "Man, you look like you've seen the devil," he said, limping out of the dark. "Or maybe you just realized you've been working for him." Something like that, I said. "I need a location." He chuckled, pulling on the smoke. "Everybody does. Not like this. I need Marv." That stopped him. His eyes narrowed. "You out of your mind, kid. You know he's got half the block under his thumb now, right? Word is he's cleaning house. Anyone who breathes wrong gets swept." "Then I guess I'm already dead," I said. "So tell me where." He looked at me for a long time. That kind of look old hustlers give when they're deciding whether to help or let the streets finish what they started. Finally, he sighed. "Warehouse off 92nd. Used to be a tire shop. He's been keeping meetings there, quiet ones. You didn't hear that from me." "I never do." He flicked the cigarette into the gutter. "You go there, you don't come back the same. You sure this is what you want?" I nodded once. "Ain't about want. It's about balance." He grunted, turned away. "Balance will kill you faster than bullets." Maybe he was right, but I was past worrying about the math. The walk to 92nd felt like marching through a graveyard made of concrete and bad memories. Streetlights flickered, dogs barked from behind fences, somewhere a baby cried. That sound that cuts through everything, innocent and lost in a place that forgot how to care. The deeper I went, the quieter it got. By the time I reached the warehouse, even the wind sounded nervous. The building sat like a sleeping beast, rusted shutters, one flickering bulb by the door, the faint bass of music leaking through the cracks. There were cars parked outside, all tinted windows and chrome that glowed dull in the night haze. Too many for comfort. I crouched behind a half-burned dumpster, eyes scanning. Two guards out front, one smoking, one scrolling through his phone. Blue light on his face made him look like a ghost too. I waited, breathing slow, counting seconds. The smell of oil and wet concrete filled my lungs. Then I heard it, the sound of a door opening somewhere around the side. A small service exit, half hidden behind a stack of tires. I moved quick, keeping low. The music inside covered the sound of my steps, just enough. When I slipped through the door, the first thing that hit me was the heat, that stale warmth of too many bodies and too much tension in one room. Inside was dim. Yellow light flickered through the dust. Shadows moved across the walls. Outlines of men talking, laughing, playing cards, the usual front for something heavier underneath. I stayed close to the edge, letting my eyes adjust. Marv was there, all right, sitting at a table near the center, surrounded by his circle. Faces I knew once, now turned hard and unreadable. A map of the city lay spread out in front of them, marked up with lines and circles. Plans. Always plans. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the gestures. Marv's hand tapping the map. One of the lieutenants shaking his head, the other nodding like a robot. Then Marv leaned back, looked up toward the ceiling, and laughed. That laugh, it hit me harder than any punch. It was the same laugh from that phone call. The one that said your problem. Something inside me cracked. I didn't remember making the first move. Maybe I just stepped out too far, or maybe part of me wanted to be seen. Either way, one of the guards near the hallway caught sight of movement. His voice echoed, low, suspicious. Chairs scraped. Heads turned. Marv froze. For a second, the whole place went still. The music, the chatter, all of it cut like someone hit mute. Then he stood up, eyes narrowing through the haze. Didn't think you'd have the guts to show up, kid. I walked forward slowly, hands open, heart hammering so loud I could hear in my throat. Guess you don't know me as well as you thought. He smirked, that calm smirk of a man who already believes he's won. You think you can walk in here and rewrite the script? I wrote this playboy. Then maybe it's time for a new author. Laughter rippled through the room, short and sharp. I felt the tension twist tighter. Every man there had a reason to pull me apart, but none of them moved yet. They were waiting for Marv's cue. He studied me. You think Trey would have wanted this? That name hit like a slap. You don't get to say his name. He made his choices. We all do. You made his for him, I said. And now I'm here to take that back. The air felt electric, that thin line between words and chaos. I could smell the dust, the sweat, the faint sweetness of cologne trying to mask fear. Marv finally nodded once. Get him. Everything exploded at once. Movement, shouts, the scrape of chairs. I dropped low, weaving through shadows. I wasn't here for a war. I was here for him. The rest were just noise. I ducked behind a column, the sound of footsteps closing in. My mind wasn't calm. It was sharp, calculating, focused like it hadn't been in months. Every second stretched into a lifetime. I spotted a narrow staircase leading up to a catwalk above the main floor. Perfect vantage. I took it 2 steps at a time, breathing through clenched teeth. The warehouse stretched out below, a blur of confusion, bodies moving in every direction, Marv shouting orders. He was still there by the table, surrounded but distracted, trying to control the storm he'd started. That's when I realized the irony. He'd built this whole empire on control, and now it was slipping right through his hands. I whispered to myself, balance. Minutes felt like hours as the chaos churned below. The catwalk creaked under my weight. I stayed crouched, watching. Marv finally moved toward a side room, one of his men close behind. I followed along the upper level, keeping parallel, my steps timed with the noise below. The side room looked like an office, broken blinds, a desk covered in papers, old bullet holes in the wall. He shut the door behind him. I climbed down the metal ladder at the far end, boots hitting the ground soft. The hall outside the office was empty now, the noise of the warehouse muffled. Only my breath and the hum of a flickering bulb above. When I pushed the door open, Marv was already waiting. No guards, just him, the map still in his hand, a faint smile on his lips. I knew you'd find me, he said. Yeah? We didn't make it that hard. He laughed once, low, tired. You think I care about any of this? These blocks, these kids killing each other over colors? It's all noise. Survival's the only color that matters. Tell that to Trey. He looked at me, really looked, and for a split second, I saw something behind the steel in his eyes. Not guilt, not fear, just fatigue. He was soft, Marv said quietly. Too much heart, not enough spine. You don't last long out here like that. I stepped closer. And what about me? You think I'm soft too? I think you still believe in fairness, he said. That's your weakness. He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't right either. Because what I believed in wasn't fairness. It was consequence. The lights flickered. Somewhere outside, someone shouted orders. The walls seemed to breathe with the sound of it all. The street closing in, the past catching up. Marv sighed, tossed the map onto the desk. You think talking me out changes anything? Another me pops up by morning. That's how it works. Maybe, I said, but at least the next one will know the cost. He smiled again, that calm, infuriating smile. You ain't built for this, kid. Maybe not, but you built me anyway. For a long time, neither of us moved. Just 2 men standing in a room full of ghosts, both knowing how the story ends. The city outside buzzed with the sound of distant sirens, like a heartbeat keeping time. Then in one sharp moment, everything shifted. A sound from the hall, a shout, the door swinging halfway open. One of Marv's men stumbled in, bleeding from somewhere, eyes wide. "Cops," he gasped. "They—" The rest of the words drowned in the roar of chaos outside. Marv turned his head, and that was enough. The moment fractured, and time started to break apart. I don't remember the next few minutes in order, just flashes. Running through corridors lit by red and blue strobes, the thunder of boots on concrete, the echo of shouts mixing with the hum of the city. The warehouse burning with noise and confusion. I remember Marv at the far exit, shouting something I couldn't hear. I remember the streetlights exploding in the rain as I stumbled outside, gasping for air. The night smelled like metal and smoke. And then I was alone again, standing in the middle of the road, chest heaving, ears ringing. Somewhere behind me, the warehouse burned, not in flames, but in memory. Everything I'd known was inside that building: loyalty, betrayal, and the pieces of the person I used to be. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. Trey, Ghost, Marv. Every name blurred together until it just became the same story playing out again and again on different corners with different faces. I started walking. Didn't know where. Didn't care. The city stretched ahead, endless, tired, and still alive. Maybe that was the punishment. To keep walking, to keep remembering. The block never forgets. And I was part of it now, not a soldier, not a leader, not even a survivor. Just a witness. The rain came down hard, washing the smoke off the streets. Every drop hissed when it hit the asphalt, like the city itself was trying to cool off from everything it had just seen. I kept walking, one block after another, my sneakers leaving muddy prints that disappeared as fast as I made them. Somewhere behind me, the sirens were still wailing. The warehouse was crawling with cops by now, maybe even news crews, but that didn't matter. By morning, the story would already be rewritten. Some raid gone wrong, a nameless suspect on a run. They never got the story right anyway. What mattered was that Marv was gone. I didn't see him fall, didn't need to. I saw it in his eyes before the chaos hit. That small flicker of recognition that his own game had finally caught up to him. For years he'd been pulling strings, making people disappear, turning loyalty into a currency. But in the end, even he couldn't buy his way out of gravity. Still, there was no victory in it. Just silence. The rain mixed with the sweat and dust on my skin until I couldn't tell the difference. My legs felt heavy, my lungs burned, and my mind was somewhere between numb and awake. Every step felt like walking through the weight of everything I'd lost: Trey, the set, the sense of purpose that used to keep me alive. I found myself back on Vernon, right where it all began. The alley was still scorched from that first night, the one we called the cleanup. Trash scattered, walls scarred from bullets and fire. A stray cat darted out from a dumpster, startled by my shadow. I stopped in the middle of the street and just stared. It was quiet now. No shouting, no engines, no music, just the drip of water off the rooftops. That silence hit harder than any gun ever could. I sat down on the curb, the same spot where Trey once told me he wanted to get out, said he was tired of watching everyone we knew disappear one by one. He used to talk about moving down a Long Beach, starting fresh. I'd laughed then, told him the streets don't let you retire. Now I wished I'd listened. The city lights blurred in the puddles at my feet, red and blue reflections dancing like ghosts. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't turn around right away. The sound was soft, cautious, familiar. "You really picked a bad night to be outside," a voice said quietly. I turned and saw Ghost standing under the flickering streetlight, his jacket soaked, crutch glinting with rain. "You followed me," I said. "Didn't have to." Whole blocks whispering. Word travels faster than bullets. I gave a tired half smile. "Let me guess, they already made me the villain." He shrugged. "Depends who's telling it. Some say you turned. Some say you finished what Mars started. Me? I say you survived what no one else could." I looked down at my hands again. That what they call it now? Surviving. He limped closer, stopping just a few feet away. "It's the only thing left to call it." You think anybody out here gets to be clean? Nah, we all dirty, just different shades. The rain picked up again. Cars hissed past at the far end of the street, their headlights cutting through the mist. Ghost took a drag from a half-wet cigarette, coughed, and said, "You know what's funny? You want a balance. You got it. Just not the kind you thought." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He was right. The sound of tires screeching made both of us turn. A black sedan rolled up slow, windows tinted dark. It stopped at the corner, engine purring like a warning. My heart kicked once, hard, before settling into that slow, steady rhythm of instinct. Ghost noticed too. "You expecting company?" I shook my head. Ain't nobody left to expect. The driver's door opened. A figure stepped out. Young, tall, clean jacket, no set colors. Could have been anyone, but I recognized the stance. It was Jinx, Marv's old runner. He didn't say a word at first, just stood there, the rain dripping off his cap, eyes locked on me. The silence stretched thin, sharp as glass. Then he called out, "Marv's gone, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "City's quieter for it." He nodded slowly. He knew it'd end this way. Said if anyone made it out, it'd be you. "Funny way to show respect," I said. He tried to bury me alive. Jinx gave a small, crooked smile. That's how he showed love. Ghost shifted beside me, whispering under his breath, "Man, this ain't gonna end peaceful." He was right again. Jinx took a few steps closer. "You know what happens now, right? You break the chain, you become the next link. That's how it works. Someone's out to fill the space he left." I stood up slowly. "Then maybe it's time to break the chain completely." He tilted his head. "You really believe that?" I nodded. "I have to." For a long moment, he just stared. Then, without another word, he turned back toward the car. Before getting in, he said quietly, "You'll see. The block don't let go. It just changes hands." The car rolled away, tail lights fading into the rain until they disappeared completely. Ghost sighed. "You just made yourself a legend or a target. Maybe both. Doesn't matter," I said. "I'm done being a soldier for ghosts." He gave me a long, searching look, then nodded. Maybe it's time the block heard that from somebody who actually lived it. We walked together for a few blocks, the city humming quietly around us. Every alley, every corner looked different now. Not cleaner, just more honest. The scars were out in the open. By the time we reached the old park, the one where the basketball courts had cracks like veins, Ghost stopped and looked at me. "You ain't staying, are you?" I shook my head. "Can't. Not after this." "Where you going?" "Don't know yet. Somewhere the sirens sound farther away." He smiled faintly. "You think that place exists?" "Guess I'll find out." He extended his hand, rough scar but steady. I took it, and for a moment, everything felt still. No gangs, no colors, no past. Just two survivors standing in the rain. "You ever come back?" Ghost said. "Don't come as the same man." "I won't." When I finally left the city limits, the skyline behind me glowed like a dying fire. Every light was a memory. Every shadow was someone I'd failed to save. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running from them. I was walking towards something else. Something quieter. Maybe redemption. Maybe just rest. The road stretched ahead, long and empty. The rain slowed, turning into a soft drizzle that barely touched the ground. I looked down at the cracked photo in my hand, the one of me and Trey. The ink had started to bleed from the water, his smile fading into the blur. I pressed it flat against my chest, over my heartbeat, and whispered, "We made it out, bro. One way or another." The wind carried the words away. Behind me, the city sighed, restless, alive, waiting for the next story to start. And I knew, deep down, that the block never really lets you go. It just remembers your name. It's been 47 days since I left South Central. Sometimes it feels like I've been gone for years. Other times, it feels like I never left, like I'm still walking those cracked sidewalks, still hearing the rumble of engines in the distance, still waiting for someone to call my name from the shadows. But the truth is quieter. Now, I wake up to the sound of waves instead of sirens. I rent a small room above a repair shop in Long Beach. The kind of place that always smells like gasoline and salt water. The walls are thin, the paint's peeling, and the neighbors keep to themselves. It's not peace, but it's close enough. Most mornings, I walk down to the pier before the sun's up. The fishermen are already there, their lines cutting through the fog, their radios playing old soul songs that echo off the water. I stand at the edge, watching the horizon shift from gray to gold, and I wonder if Trey ever made it out in some other life. Sometimes I talk to him like he's still here. Not out loud, just in my head. He's quieter now too, but not gone. The first few weeks, I kept expecting someone to show up. Maybe Ghost, with that crooked grin and his endless stories. Maybe Jinx, looking to finish what Mars started. Or maybe someone I didn't know, another soldier in blue, trying to make a name off mine. But no one came. The streets moved on without me, just like they always do. You think you leave a hole when you disappear, but the block doesn't leave holes. It just reshapes around your absence. The corner you use to stand on gets new faces, the stories change names, and soon enough, you're just a rumor told to keep the young ones in line. Don't end up like Marlon, they'll say. Dude thought he could outsmart the streets. Maybe they're right. There's a bar near the docks, Marley's. The kind of place that stays half empty even on weekends. The owner's an old Jamaican man who used to play bass in a reggae band before his hands went bad. He doesn't ask questions, and he doesn't mind if you sit there for hours nursing the same beer. He calls me Blue, even though I never told him why the name fits. Maybe he just sees it on me. One night, after closing, he was wiping down the counter when he asked, "You ever gonna tell me what you're running from, Blue?" I thought about lying. Then I realized I didn't have to. "I'm not running anymore," I said. "I just don't know where to stop." He smiled, that slow, patient kind of smile old men have when they've seen everything twice already. Then you stop when you can breathe without remember the noise. That line stuck with me, because that's the thing nobody tells you about getting out. It's not the gunfire you miss, it's the noise. The constant buzz of adrenaline. The certainty that every minute could be your last. Out here, life moves slower, quieter. It should feel good, but sometimes the silence hurts worse than the chaos ever did. One afternoon, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a photo clipped to the corner. The photo was of Ghost sitting on the steps of an old church, holding a crutch in one hand and a smile that didn't look like it belonged to him. The note said only 2 words, "Still breathing." I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my jacket pocket. I didn't need to write back. Some things don't need words. It was enough to know he made it, that someone else got out. At night, I dream in colors again. Not gang colors, just colors. The blue of the ocean, the orange of the sun bleeding over the horizon, the silver of streetlights reflecting off wet asphalt. Sometimes, though, the dreams twist. I see the block again, the faces, the corners, the alleys glowing red under sirens. I see Marv turning, his voice echoing through smoke. "You think you can change the game?" he says. "The game's been here before you, and it'll be here after." I always wake up before I can answer. About a month after I got the letter, I saw something that stopped me cold. There was a kid standing at the edge of the pier, maybe 17, 18. Same build I had back then, same restless energy in his stance. He had a blue hoodie pulled up, the sleeves rolled tight around his fists. I watched him toss a stone into the water and mutter something to himself. When he turned, our eyes met. For a second, I swear he looked just like Trey. He nodded once, like he knew who I was. Then he walked away, disappearing into the fog before I could say anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how easy it would be for that kid to take the same road we did. How the streets always find new recruits. Kids who want to belong to something, anything, even if it kills them. And I realized something. Leaving wasn't enough. If I really wanted to make peace with the past, I had to make sure it didn't repeat. The next morning, I went looking for work. Not real work. Nobody hires ex-gang members with no references and a bad record. But I found a youth center near the East Side docks. The walls were covered with graffiti that looked more like murals, portraits of faces gone too soon. The guy who ran, it was a former boxer named Luis. He took one look at me, asked what I wanted, and didn't flinch when I told him the truth. I used to run with the Crips, I said. Now I just want to make sure fewer kids do. He nodded. Then grab a broom. Floor's not going to clean itself. That's how it started. Weeks turned into months. I swept floors, fixed broken chairs, repainted walls. Kids came and went, some quiet, some loud, some already halfway gone to the streets. They didn't ask about my past, but they knew. You can always tell your own kind. Sometimes they'd catch me staring out the window when the sirens passed and ask, "You ever miss it?" And I'd tell them the truth. I miss the people, not the life. One day, a boy named Malik, skinny, sharp-eyed, always wearing a red wristband, stayed after everyone else had gone. He sat next to me on the steps and asked, "You really think people can change?" I thought about Trey, about Ghost, about Marv. Yeah, I said, but not all at once. Change don't happen like a movie ending. It's a fight every day. Some days you win, some days you don't, but you keep fighting. He nodded slowly, then said, "My brother says once you in for life." "Then prove him wrong," I said. He looked at me for a long moment, then stood up and walked off without another word. But the next day, he came back, no red wristband this time. Sometimes, when I lock up at night, I walk along the shoreline again. The city looks smaller from here, softer, like maybe it's finally starting to heal. I think about what Marley said about breathing without remembering the noise. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. Every now and then, I still hear the echo of engines, the hum of the block. But it doesn't call me like it used to. Now it sounds like a story, one I lived through, one I survived, one that doesn't own me anymore. A few weeks ago, I went back to South Central for the first time. I didn't tell anyone, just drove up before dawn, parked a few blocks from Vernon, and walked the rest of the way. The street looked different, new paint on the walls, a corner store where the old car wash used to be. But under the surface, it was the same heartbeat, same rhythm, same ghosts. I stopped in front of the warehouse, or what was left of it. The city had torn it down, built a small community center in its place. There was a mural on the side, a pair of hands clasped together, one blue, one red. The words, "We remember, we rebuild," painted beneath it. I don't know who painted it, but for a long time, I just stood there staring. The air smelled like rain again. The kind of rain that cleans more than it ruins. I walked to the back lot, the same spot where everything went wrong. The asphalt was cracked, weeds pushing through. I crouched down and placed Trey's photo there, the one I'd carried all this time. The ink was almost gone now, but his smile was still there if you look close enough. "This is where it ends," I said quietly, "for both of us." And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was talking to a ghost. The sun broke through the clouds as I walked back to the car. Light spilled across the street, catching on the puddles, turning them gold. I looked back once, not out of regret, but respect. You can't erase where you came from. You can only carry it right. That night, back in Long Beach, I wrote something down for the first time in years. Not a letter, not a confession, just words that had been sitting inside me too long. We all want out. We all want clean. But nobody gets that easy. The block builds you, breaks you, brands you. And if you're lucky, it lets you leave, not as who you were, but as who you might still become. The streets don't forgive, but sometimes they forget long enough for you to start over. I folded the paper and left it on Marley's counter before heading out for the night. Didn't sign it. Didn't need to. The ocean was calm. The city lights shimmered across the water. I stood there, breathing slow, and for the first time since Trey died, maybe for the first time in my whole life, I didn't hear the noise. Just the waves, just the wind, just the sound of something new beginning.